Somewhere inside your gut right now, a war is being fought, and most people are losing it without even knowing. Not because of their diet, not because of their genetics, because of one microscopic organism that has been quietly disappearing from the human body for the last 50 years. Scientists are calling it the most important microbe ever discovered. It amplifies your immune system. It increases your muscle mass. It slashes inflammation. And new research suggests it may literally extend how long you live. But here is the terrifying part. The majority of adults in the developed world have almost none of it left. I'm Dr. Wahid, and today I'm going to tell you exactly what this microbe is, why your body is running out of it, what that's actually doing to you, and most importantly, how to get it back. Stay with me through this one, because what I'm about to share changes how you think about your health permanently. What is this microbe? Before we get into what it does, let me give you some context that makes this feel real. Your gut is home to roughly 38 trillion microorganisms. Bacteria, fungi, viruses, an entire ecosystem living inside you. Scientists have studied this ecosystem for decades, but most of that research was too broad, too general. It told us the microbiome matters, but it couldn't tell us which specific organisms actually drive the biggest outcomes. Then a landmark study out of the Pasteur Institute changed everything. Researchers started looking at centenarians, people who live past 100, and comparing their gut microbiome to people in their 60s and 70s with chronic illness. The difference was striking, but what shocked them was not how many different bacteria the centenarians had. It was that almost all of them had unusually high levels of one specific bacterium. Akkermansia mucinifila. Say that name. Remember it. Because by the end of this video, you'll understand why more scientists are talking about Akkermansia than almost any other single organism in the human microbiome. The gut lining nobody talks about. Here's something your doctor probably never explained to you. Your gut is not just a tube that food passes through. The inside of your intestinal wall is lined with a thick, gel-like layer called the mucus layer. Think of it as a protective barrier, a moat between the bacteria in your gut and your bloodstream. When that barrier is intact and healthy, harmful compounds stay in the gut where they belong. Your immune system stays calm. Inflammation stays low. But when the mucus layer breaks down, everything changes. Bacterial fragments, undigested proteins, inflammatory compounds, they start leaking through the gut wall and into circulation. Your immune system sees them and panics. It launches a chronic low-grade inflammatory response. And that inflammation, quiet, invisible, relentless, is now linked to type 2 diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular disease, autoimmune conditions, depression, and accelerated aging. This is what researchers call intestinal permeability. Most people call it leaky gut. And for years, we didn't know what was controlling the thickness of that mucus layer. Now we do. Akkermansia mucinifila lives almost exclusively in the mucus layer of your gut. It feeds on mucus, but here is the key. When it feeds, it actually signals your gut cells to produce more mucus. It thickens and reinforces the very barrier it lives in. When Akkermansia is abundant, the wall holds. When it's gone, the wall starts to crumble. That is why losing this microbe is not just a gut problem. It is a whole body problem. What Akkermansia is actually doing to your body. Let me walk you through the research, because this is where it gets extraordinary. On immune function, a 2021 clinical trial in Nature Medicine took overweight adults with metabolic syndrome and gave them either pasteurized Akkermansia or a placebo. The group receiving Akkermansia showed significant reductions in inflammatory markers. Their immune system was quieter, more regulated, less reactive. Chronic inflammation, the kind that drives most modern disease, was measurably lower after just 3 months. On metabolism and weight, the same trial showed reductions in insulin resistance, improvements in cholesterol profiles, and a decrease in liver fat. The participants weren't told to change their diet. They weren't exercising more. Just Akkermansia, and their metabolic health improved across multiple markers simultaneously. On muscle mass, this is the one that surprises people most. Research published in Cell Metabolism found that Akkermansia activates a signaling pathway that promotes muscle protein synthesis. Animals with higher Akkermansia had more lean muscle mass even without additional exercise. Human correlational data mirrors this. It is likely one of the reasons centenarians, who have high Akkermansia, also tend to maintain muscle tone far longer than average. On longevity, Studies on aging populations consistently show that Akkermansia abundance is one of the strongest microbial predictors of healthy aging. The mechanism is multifactorial. Reduced inflammation, better metabolic function, stronger gut barrier, improved immune regulation. All of it compounds over decades into a dramatically different trajectory. And here's what ties it all together. Akkermansia produces short-chain fatty acids and specific proteins that directly communicate with your cells. One protein in particular, called a MUC_1100, has been shown to interact with immune receptors and gut cell receptors in ways that improve barrier function and reduce inflammatory signaling. This microbe is not passive. It is biochemically active in ways we are only beginning to understand. Why you're probably running low right now. This is the part that most health content skips over. And it's the most important part. Akkermansia doesn't disappear randomly. There are specific, measurable, modern lifestyle factors that destroy it. And when you hear them, you'll recognize your own life. Antibiotics. A single course of broad-spectrum antibiotics can reduce Akkermansia populations by 50 to 80%. And unlike some bacteria that bounce back within weeks, Akkermansia can take months to recover. And in some people, it never fully does. Processed food. Akkermansia feeds on mucus, but it also responds to dietary fiber. Ultra-processed foods, the ones that make up the majority of calories in most Western diets, contain almost no fiber, and they contain emulsifiers like polysorbate 80 and carboxymethylcellulose that directly damage the mucus layer Akkermansia lives in. You are not just starving it. You are destroying its home. High-sugar diets. Excess dietary sugar promotes competing bacteria and yeasts that crowd out Akkermansia. It also drives systemic inflammation that degrades the gut environment. Chronic stress. Cortisol, your primary stress hormone, directly alters gut motility, mucus production, and microbial balance. Chronically elevated cortisol is associated with significant Akkermansia reduction. Sleep deprivation. Your gut microbiome has its own circadian rhythm. Disrupting your sleep disrupts the microbiome. Studies show that even 1 week of partial sleep deprivation causes measurable shifts in microbial populations, including Akkermansia. Age. Akkermansia populations naturally decline as we get older. A healthy 30-year-old may have moderate to high levels. By 60, without deliberate effort, many people have almost none detectable. Put all of this together, and you start to see why this is a modern epidemic. Antibiotics in childhood, processed food throughout adulthood, chronic stress, poor sleep, aging. Most people are hitting every single one of these factors simultaneously. The microbiome is collapsing in slow motion, and the downstream effects are being blamed on everything except the actual cause. How to rebuild it. Now let's talk about what you can actually do. First, food. Certain foods have been shown in research to significantly increase Akkermansia. The single most potent dietary intervention is pomegranate. Pomegranate contains elagitannins, which are converted in the gut to compounds called urolithins that selectively feed and promote Akkermansia growth. One study showed that pomegranate extract increased Akkermansia populations by up to 47 times compared to controls. Cranberries have a similar but less potent effect. Concord grapes and grape polyphenol also show promise. Other foods that support Akkermansia include high-fiber vegetables, especially prebiotic-rich ones like chicory root, garlic, leeks, and asparagus. Omega-3 fatty acids from fatty fish like salmon and sardines also appear to create a gut environment where Akkermansia thrives. Second, fermented foods. While fermented foods like yogurt, kefir, and kimchi do not directly contain Akkermansia, they support overall microbiome diversity in ways that allow Akkermansia to flourish. Think of it as improving the neighborhood rather than moving in a new resident. Third, supplements. This is where it gets interesting clinically. Akkermansia is now available as a direct probiotic supplement. However, one critical detail, the research shows that pasteurized Akkermansia outperforms live Akkermansia in many studies. That seems counterintuitive. But it appears that specific proteins on the outer membrane of Akkermansia, including the MUC_1100 protein I mentioned earlier, are what drive many of the benefits, and gentle pasteurization preserves those proteins while making the product shelf-stable. If you're looking at supplements, Make sure you're choosing a product that specifies pasteurized Akkermansia mucinifera and has at minimum one human clinical trial behind it. Fourth, reduce what's killing it. This means protecting antibiotic use to situations of genuine necessity. It means dramatically reducing processed foods and emulsifier exposure. It means managing chronic stress through whatever sustainable practice works for you: sleep, exercise, breath work, boundary setting. It means prioritizing 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep. These aren't abstract wellness tips. They are targeted interventions that directly protect a specific and irreplaceable part of your biology. Here's the thing I want you to leave with today. Medicine has spent decades treating the symptoms of modern disease: the diabetes, the cardiovascular events, the autoimmune flares, the obesity, without asking a deeper question. What is the common thread? What is upstream of all of this? Increasingly, the evidence points to the gut, and within the gut, to specific organisms like Akkermansia that are silently governing far more of your health than anyone imagined. You are not just what you eat. You are what your microbiome does with what you eat. And right now, for most people, that microbiome is compromised in ways that are quietly accelerating disease and aging. The good news is, this is reversible. It is one of the most actionable areas in modern medicine. Food, sleep, stress, targeted supplementation. The tools exist. The science is solid. And you now know what most people don't. I'm Dr. Wahid. If this gave you something new to think about, share it with someone you care about. And drop a comment below. I want to know, have you ever had your microbiome tested? What did you find?